Elon Musk just confirmed something massive. Version 3 boosters will be mass-produced in under a month. Booster 19 is already stacking in December, and Flight 12 is locked for February 2026. How is SpaceX keeping this timeline after the Booster 18 explosion? The secret is their radical V3 design. All gas manifolds moved outside, integrated hot staging rings, streamlined assembly, everything built for speed. What does this mean for Starship's future? Welcome to Space Update 24 Hours. Let's dive right in. Here at Starbase, Texas, the pace of development is absolutely relentless. Just days after Booster 18 suffered a catastrophic failure on the test stand, likely another COPV rupture in one of the header tanks, similar to what happened with Ship 36, SpaceX crews were already cutting it in half and clearing it away. They're not dwelling on setbacks. They're extracting every lesson and moving forward. What's remarkable is how SpaceX publicly maintains their Q1 2026 timeline for Flight 12. Sure, it's shifted from early January to mid-February, but that's hardly a delay worth mentioning. Why the confidence? Because while engineers analyze the Booster 18 wreckage, construction teams are already stacking Booster 19. SpaceX says it'll be ready for testing by the end of December. Can they actually pull that off? The answer is version 3. This isn't just an incremental upgrade. It's a fundamental redesign focused on one thing: speed. Look at the bottom of these new boosters. That external ring you're seeing holds nearly every system except the main fuel lines. Helium for engine spin-up, gaseous methane and oxygen for torch igniters. Autogenous pressurization lines. All of it mounted on the outside now. This might sound risky, exposing critical systems to the elements, but SpaceX has calculated the trade-off. When workers can install these lines externally instead of threading them through tight internal spaces, assembly time drops dramatically. We're talking about building an entire super heavy booster in under a month. Think about that timeline compared to traditional aerospace, where rocket stages take years to manufacture. And there's more. The hot staging ring is now permanently integrated into the booster. Previously, Starship stacks had 3 separate pieces: the ship, the booster, and that staging ring in between. After separation, the ring would drop into the ocean. That's hardware you paid for, used once, and threw away. Not anymore. Version 3 boosters will bring the ring home and reuse it flight after flight. How much does this save in the long run? Look closely at the forward dome of these new boosters. SpaceX added a heat shield made of formed steel plates. These patches aren't randomly placed. They align precisely with the ship's engines above. Notice how they're asymmetrical? That's because the booster flips to one side during separation. SpaceX designed the shield accounting for that exact maneuver. The hot staging architecture has also evolved. There's now more clearance between the ship's engines and the booster's dome. The switch from a ring with cutouts to an open strut design massively increases the area for exhaust gases to escape during separation. Combined with the heat shield, these changes point to one goal: making these boosters last dozens of flights instead of just a handful. Here's the clever part. Those black clamps holding the hot stage truss to the booster, they're designed for quick replacement. When the truss eventually wears down from constant Raptor blasts, crews can swap it out in hours and keep flying the same booster. This is how you achieve airline-like operations with rockets. Meanwhile, Starship Pad 2 is racing toward completion. My estimate puts it ready by mid-January, giving SpaceX a solid 4-week window before the projected mid-February Flight 12 launch. That's enough time for a static fire test, damage assessment, and multiple wet dress rehearsals with the brand new V3 hardware. Does this timeline make sense now? Over at Pad 1, the demolition continues at a shocking pace. Everything's gone except the shower head, some rebar stubs, and the cryogenic lines in the ground. SpaceX even ripped out the entire chopstick enclosure behind the tower, not because they're tearing it down, but because they're upgrading it to Pad 2 standards. Both chopsticks have been cut and are being modified with new landing rails and systems. When do you think Pad 1 will launch again? 6, maybe 7 months? But let's talk about the real monster growing at Starbase, the Gigabay. The structure has reached level 1 across all columns, and it's already impressively tall. Want to know how much taller it needs to go? Try 116 meters total, 8 full column levels. Why so massive? Because version 3 hardware barely fits in the current megabays, and version 4 won't fit at all. SpaceX is building manufacturing capacity for rockets that don't even exist yet. This is where mass production thinking meets aerospace. Every decision, external manifolds, integrated rings, modular heat shields, rapid assembly bays, feeds into the same vision. SpaceX isn't trying to build the perfect rocket right now. They're building the infrastructure to manufacture hundreds of rockets efficiently. What happens when they're churning out a booster every 2 weeks? Now, while SpaceX dominates headlines, Blue Origin just dropped a bombshell. Days after New Glenn's successful second flight, they announced the 9x4 variant, a super heavy configuration with 9 BE-4 engines on the first stage and 4 BE-3U engines on the upper stage. This isn't a minor upgrade. We're talking about over 70 metric tons to low Earth orbit, more than 20 tons to translunar injection, and an 8.7-meter payload fairing nearly matching Starship's diameter. Here's what makes this fascinating. Blue Origin is enlarging the rocket itself rather than strapping on boosters. It's an evolution of proven hardware, which could accelerate development significantly. The 9x4 even surpasses Saturn V's height. Could this become a legitimate SLS alternative for Artemis lunar missions? The first New Glenn booster just returned to Port Canaveral aboard the recovery vessel Jacqueline, where Jeff Bezos himself stood on deck watching it arrive. The booster, named Never Tell Me the Odds, will be refurbished for up to 25 flights. Some damage was visible, unclear if it's serious or just paint that couldn't survive the forces. But if everything checks out, this same booster could fly NG-3, Blue Origin's first lunar mission attempt with their Blue Moon Mk1 lander, targeting Shackleton Crater. Speaking of Blue Origin, they're not stopping. Blue Ring, their space mobility vehicle, is undergoing integration for a Pentagon-funded national security mission, launching spring 2026. They even revealed a full-scale aerobrake demonstrator, technology that uses planetary atmospheres to slow spacecraft, potentially saving massive amounts of propellant for Mars missions. Then there's an unexpected development from Europe. French retailer Decathlon partnered with CNES and Spartan Space to develop the Eurosuit, an intravehicular activity suit that astronauts can put on or remove in under 2 minutes, completely unassisted. That's potentially life-saving during emergencies. Astronaut Sophie Adenauer will test it aboard the ISS during her 2026 Epsilon mission. If successful, it'll evolve into a fully operational suit with sealed pressure systems and head-up displays. Meanwhile, Boeing's Starliner situation keeps getting stranger. NASA just modified their contract, converting Starliner 1 from a 4-person crew mission into cargo only for April 2026. They also reduced Boeing's contracted flights from 6 to 4. This follows the nightmare crew flight test, where thruster malfunctions and helium leaks forced Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams to stay 9 months aboard ISS before returning on Dragon. Boeing claims they're validating system upgrades with this cargo approach. But let's be honest, they don't want to risk astronauts again. Even if Starliner 1 succeeds, time is running out. The ISS decommissions in 2030, leaving an incredibly narrow window. This $4.2 billion program has already cost Boeing over $2 billion in overruns. Will Starliner ever carry astronauts again? While Boeing struggles, SpaceX's Falcon 9 just keeps delivering. The latest launch carried Sentinel-6B, a satellite that measures sea levels down to 2.5 centimeters across 90% of Earth's oceans. This pickup truck-sized spacecraft continues a legacy that started with Topex/Poseidon back in 1992. Reliable, consistent, operational. That's the pattern we're seeing across the industry. SpaceX is building infrastructure for mass production. Blue Origin is scaling up with the 9x4 variant. Europe is innovating with rapid deployment spacesuits. Meanwhile, Boeing is converting crew missions to cargo runs, hoping to prove their spacecraft can still fly safely. February 2026 isn't far away. SpaceX will stack Booster 19, complete Pad 2, and attempt Flight 12 with full version 3 hardware. If they succeed, we'll witness the beginning of true rocket mass production. Boosters built in weeks, not years. If they stumble, the lessons will feed directly into version 4. Either way, the industry moves forward. Here's where you come in. We're targeting 1 million subscribers and 500,000 views per video. What strategies would you use to get there? Drop your ideas in the comments. Marketing tactics, content suggestions, anything. I'll compile the best ones and bring them back in a future episode. Hit that like button if this breakdown added value. Share it with anyone tracking the space industry. And subscribe to Space Update 24 hours so you never miss what happens next at Starbase. The revolution is happening right now, and we're covering every development. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.